that's fine. I think they'll figure it out. I've been early before.
Yeah,
we've all been early.
You just fudge it a bit on the editing. It's fine.
Yeah.
It just makes it like a good starting place,
I mean,
you know?
if Emery's editing this one, I do not fudge it on the edit. I do that very professionally.
We're professionals here, I told
We
you.
are professionals. I'm so professional that I will need to hear the intro to know what this is about, though.
It's about the book you got.
I did not link that. I did buy that book. I read that comic. It's been a rough week.
Oh my god.
Life. I have it with me. I can hold it as we're doing this. I'm
Hello,
holding it
everyone.
in my hands.
Welcome to Check Out This Guy, and you can also hold this beautiful comic that Quattro and I have, because we're talking to the person that made a beautiful comic. But I'll introduce myself first, because I'm like that. I'm Morg. I use they, he pronouns, and I'm so excited to talk to one of my longtime friends about their comic.
I'm Katja. I use they, he, she, and I should have read this faster because I haven't finished it yet.
Uh-oh. We'll pause then. Wait, we'll just sit in silence while you finish it.
No.
No, I have a bad time. I have. It's as late for me.
Bro, at least you've read some of it. Like, Izzy was going to be on it without having read any of it. So, like,
fair. And I have read it once before online.
Totally fine.
Okay. Yeah, it hasn't changed much, probably, since then.
But who is our guest? Who are you? Yes.
I'm Dani Diaz, aka Memory Fuel, and I use they, them pronouns. And I'm the author of this book.
Hell yeah.
Dream Over.
Yeah. I'm like kind of giddy right now because I'm like, oh my gosh.
Morg has seen this through a lot of
yes.
I mean, I feel like you've been there more or less.
Yes.
You've seen a lot of the development over the time.
I have. I was talking about, like, I was just like, yeah, I've seen this like off and on since college. Like, it's gone through multiple like changes and character names, and it's just like so fucking cool to be like, wow, my friend.
Like seeing a little niece or nephew grow up.
This book is my niece, yeah, for sure. But we're here to talk. I mean, we don't have to talk fully just about the comic. That's just, it's on my mind because it's right here in front of me. And it's on all of our minds because it just came out like in January. But we're here to talk about like your characters, whatever you want to talk about regarding them in general or the Dream Over characters, because obviously it has two major characters, two major guys.
Yes. Hopefully they're cool. Hopefully they're cool enough for this pod.
I hope, you know, we have very high standards, obviously, because you definitely... I didn't realize you had listened to one of the episodes before coming on. I was like, oh my god, I said you could, but then I was like, oh my god.
I listened to all of them, actually. Just kidding.
No! I was gonna say, Jesus Christ.
I should, though.
I haven't listened to all of them. I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
I've listened to all of our episodes. Not to flex.
Big flex.
But I'm a real fan.
You're a real Check Out This Guy fan.
Wait, should we also introduce Craig? I don't know Craig.
Oh, everyone already knows about Craig. Craig is old hat. We don't have to introduce Craig.
Okay.
Craig's just...
Yeah, you at any point assume Craig is here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. I also don't know Craig's pronouns, actually. But yeah, so do you want to start with even just like talking about Your guys. You want to talk about Amber and Nico? Maybe.
Sure. Well, I guess I can start. I can just sort of summarize the plot of the book really quickly.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, so this is like a graphic novel, obviously, about these two childhood best friends named Amber and Nico, who basically fall for each other at the end of middle school and start dating. But they have some other friends that they start to become estranged from as they become just really hyper-focused on their own relationship with each other and sort of are becoming mean to their friends and just really self-absorbed. And high school for them just is a shitty time because it's a shitty time for everybody. So they basically they end up magically escaping their lives through a shared lucid dream. So half the graphic novel takes place, if the first half takes place like in, the quote, real world, and then the latter half is like after they're down and out and they're like, all right, let's just leave all this behind and have fun doing whatever we want in our shared lucid dream.
Yeah.
This is exactly how high schoolers would deal with a problem. That's so true.
Yes.
So true. It's from experience, Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, I should say, I feel like, a lot of the book is like definitely, based on personal experiences, but it's definitely not like, it's not meant to be like a memoir or like, I guess, I don't know. Our other friend, Catherine Varga, shout out, described it as autofiction.
Which
I feel like is a more apt. But yeah, I did not actually have a shared lucid dream with anybody, as far as I know, in my life.
Autofiction is a great term for this because it definitely... It's just funny because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just based on, stuff you've told me about your middle and high school and like what I have also experienced as like someone your age going through it both literally and figuratively, and just it's so fun because there's even like little parts that are like people on like Messenger, like AOL Messenger, just like talking to each other and having like away messages, that old chestnut, and just like a game that's kind of Wind Waker.
Yeah.
that they're playing. Off-brand Wind Waker.
Off-brand. Yeah, the book is, I should say, set in like 2008, which is when I was in like 8th grade. 2008, I was going to say 2008, 2009 sort of time frame.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very overt but oblique, just references to things that I, media things that I really liked at the time.
It's so funny because some of them are so like, some of them are like kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that's Zelda. Very like, but some of them are just like stuff that just because like I know because I talked to you.
Yeah. And
you say phrases like mediocre dunces in real life.
Well, I didn't make that one up. Also,
you didn't. But that's what I'm saying.
If anybody knows what that's from, I'm not even going to say it. And I can't say what it's from. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. But that's what I'm saying.
If you've
it's
read
like
My Immortal, you know. But I'm not going to tell you what it's from.
I'm not going to tell you what it's from.
You would never.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that's a little bit more obscure than like they're playing Zelda game.
Wait, is My Immortal obscure? I'm confused.
I don't know. Not for our audience, but just like in general.
Okay, relief.
Yeah, sorry, not for like our audience is very online. Probably more than I am. Some of them
more than you are.
Morgue than I am. Yes.
Morgue than morgue. I mean, we could just talk about Ebony Darkness, Dementia Raven Way instead of my characters. I'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if my brain can handle that. I'm not gonna lie. You do take some psychic damage when you think about it too long.
But I feel like
if
you think about it, this kind of like, the more you think about it, though, you eventually cross a threshold where you start to regenerate psychically and transcend.
That's so true.
You could say you become so strong, you become immortal?
Yes, exactly. The and my is referring to yourself.
You become enlightened after a while. You're, Danny's just saying that they're more enlightened than... because
that's what it takes to make
honestly we did have an episode on like canon characters or OCs that interact with canon characters. Like, we've talked about this. The line between is very thin.
We did do that, and I did say I like introducing guys who cause more drama at the end of happy endings.
Yeah. You just what if someone wrote fanfic about Dream Over? That would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that probably won't happen, but if it does happen, I will probably read it. Some of it. Actually, maybe not, though. Honestly, I find it even hard to read like anybody's, just like looking through Goodreads or like anything, just like reading anybody's thoughts on it. I'm like, this is hard for me to do, even if they're positive.
I was gonna say, like, I think I would have a hard time, even though like I grew up in that space. Like, I would have a hard time reading about my own characters.
It's definitely surreal.
Yeah,
but it is.
Yeah,
I feel like it is. What is nice though is, regardless of what they're saying, I guess it's like, obviously I'm grateful that people read it, even if they like hated it, or not. I mean, only like a few people, as far as I can tell, like, didn't like it. But I guess it's interesting to see, like, I think just after working on something for so long, you just sort of develop this, like, you're like, does anything that I made, does any of this make any sense? Like,
yeah.
And it's clear from just reading what people say that actually, yes, it did make sense, and they understood what happened in the book.
Yeah, that's like a huge thing, right? Because you're like, I know everything that happened in this book because I made it. But can I translate? Sorry, my door is open. But can I translate it to other people? Yeah. Like, can I explain this to other people, even if it seems so clear to you? But it's clear to other people too, and that's so cool.
It is. Cool. Definitely surreal though, and uncomfortable when they don't like it.
Of course. It seems like it's a little bit uncomfortable even when they do like it.
Yeah, that's it.
You're like, uh-oh.
There's just no winning.
You're like, weird. Uh-oh.
Yeah. To be honest, I think it's good if some people don't like it. You don't want to make something that's universally good. I think that's too...
Right.
I'm always worried that such a thing is too flat. If that makes sense, like not enough depth.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. We gotta have some controversy this day.
Yeah, you gotta have a hater. To be truly good, you gotta have a hater.
Yeah.
You gotta have haters so you have waiters at the table of success.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry.
Never apologize.
At a certain point, like... God, I don't even know what to ask next, because I'm just like, oh my gosh. When you first, like, had this in mind, did you think it was gonna, like, turn into, like, kind of a romance? Like, because I remember you drawing just one character for a little while before you drew two of them.
Yes, that's a good question. I can launch into a long ramble about the lore. here.
I would love that. Perfect.
Hell yeah, we love lore on this podcast.
That's what we're here for, right? Okay. Yeah, let's get to
That's what we want.
All right, I'll stop talking about My Immortal and I'll stop avoiding the subject here. Yes. Let's see. Where should I start? So I guess we'll first answer that question. I guess originally, no. I did not actually have a romance in mind. Let's see how far back I want to think about this. Well, it's funny thinking it. Well, before we start recording, you mentioned more like this animation I was working on in college.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, yeah, it's like actually goes back that far.
Yes. Yeah.
Or, well, it's fine. I feel like I've said, like, I started working on this after college, like right after.
Yeah.
Like 2017, June.
I always think of it as being like, oh, you started it in like your special fifth year, you know,
Yeah,
your special take
we won't
5
talk
years.
about.
But that's what I think of it. That's why I just say like, oh yeah, they've been doing it since the end of college.
Yeah. I guess what, I guess I'll talk about this. So the first thing that happened was, I won't say the first thing that happened. The first thing I'll talk about is, so after college, like, you know, finally having free time for the first time in 5 years.
Mood.
I started just, actually what happened, I should say. I read, Tilly Walden's On a Sunbeam, which is a graphic novel that was a huge inspiration to me.
I love that one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. And
that's so cool you got them on the cover.
Oh yeah. That was also very surreal. And
Tilly Walden is on the cover. Oh my god, that's so cool.
A quote, yeah.
Yeah, she I feel really grateful that happened. I met her at a convention in Toronto. Which I think is part of how that happened. But anyway, so I read that and I was like, I mean, I had been thinking about, you know, doing graphic novel for a while, like even since like high school.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have any good ideas, I guess. And, you know, I mean,
mood.
In college, got very distracted by studying sciences for some reason. And in that time, I mean, I did, you know, play around with other media like animation and like, I guess mostly
Stamps.
Like 2D. Yeah, I mean, some 2D and 3D animation, but
you also made a fucking sick ass sculpture.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
We're going too deep into the weeds here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mork is here as the hype support.
Yeah, sorry. There's just too much lore in my relationship with Mork that it's. So I read this. I read On a Sunbeam, and I was like, okay, I need to like basically do this now. So I just started drawing and like very loosely writing, like literally, like not even a full script. Just I, you know, wrote some dialogue and like it was all just very. I was like basically, I guess, writing as I was going and drawing as I was going, which I mean, some people do obviously, but I, you know, got to the end of like basically I penciled like a 200-page story where the two main characters. Sorry, I should keep talking about the characters. Amber and Nico. They're,
you know, that's kind of it's a jumping off point. You don't have to.
Okay.
If you're going somewhere, we want to hear it. You know?
Okay, sure. So the two characters, or the original story that I came up with, it's basically just a slice of life, like senior year of high school. The two character Amber and Nico, and also their other best friend Drew is there. And it's basically just like month by month, sort of going through, like, their, you know, very slice of life, and they're kind of grappling with the fact that, you know, this era of their life is coming to an end, and they're all going to like go off to, different, I don't know, colleges, and, very like angsty, whatever, end of high school. And so I got to the end of that, and I was like, this is literally the worst thing that anyone has ever written or drawn. But especially it was just like I'd already drawn it all, like in pencil, in more detail than I should have. So I was like, I can't really edit this.
Yeah.
So I got to the end, and I was like, okay, this didn't really work. So I just burned that down, and out of the ashes of that, decided to like really write like a polished script first. So I spent like 8 months like just writing basically, and went through like maybe a dozen drafts, and finally came up with, instead of having them be end of high school, I landed on like the transition from middle to high school. And also in the original, there was no like romance. They were just like all friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess at the time, I was reading a lot of graphic novels, like a lot of YA graphic novels, and obviously, and middle grade stuff, and just the romance component is ubiquitous. So I don't know, I guess it's just sort of it's hard to explain where it came from, but
no, totally. I think it makes sense. It also works for like these two like trying to or like accidentally kind of cutting themselves off. Like it flows from it perfectly well. Yeah. It's more just a matter of like, I just remembered like, oh yeah, you started with one guy and then two guys, and then three guy. Drew's been around forever.
Yeah, actually, and I'll say, sort of jumping around here. Sorry, my brain is really jumbled. It's Sunday, and I woke up at 2 p.m. So, going back to the college year, in that, actually, the original idea I had was, like, these same characters. Actually, I don't even think Nico existed. It was Amber, Drew, and they had an internet friend.
Yes, I remember this. Sorry, I'm just like...
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I love it.
Sorry, I'm very excited talking to my friends, usually, and then it's even more exciting when I can be like, oh my god.
No, it is very exciting to talk to friends, because I feel like that's as adults, there's very little time for that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I feel like that's part of where all this graphic novel came from as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of.
I thought that this was very relatable. Yeah, I had a bunch of friends who stopped talking to me around that time.
Oh no!
Because of those reasons, and then years later they're like, "Oh, that was shitty," and then they're back, and it's like, "Huh,
good.
Weird."
I feel like that's not the usual way that turns out. But they
Depends,
came back.
But yeah.
Well, you should write a graphic memoir about that.
You see, the thing is, I'm still stuck on that first step you did, where I just draw things, and then I say, well, I can't do anything with this.
Well, it's definitely part of the process. Like, I feel like it's a cliche that people say, about like failure and whatever, but
it's true, unfortunately,
Yeah, it's another book, actually, a book that I keep talking about our friend, or it's the second time I'm mentioning our friend Catherine Varga. She's a playwright who also lives in Rochester. And she recommended me this book. It's called... I forget the name of the book. It's by this guy named Matt Bell. I think it's just like how to write a novel in 3 drafts or something. I don't know. But yeah, he's all about the like shitty first draft. Like the first part is literally just doing that. Honestly, a really great and concise book. I would recommend to anybody trying to write a novel. Even though I was doing graphic novel, I still thought it was really useful.
Yeah, I might honestly look that up later because Dani, like I've been trying to write since at least college. Also, like.
Yeah, you have been writing.
Yes, off and on. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. So, yeah, going back to this original story, I keep calling it. So, yeah, I guess I had this story idea that, again, really not well formed at all, but it was like, Amber and Drew and their like internet friend. And basically, like when I was that age, like this was like 6th grade. I like spent all this time on these like online forums doing like forum role playing where you like, somebody will come up with like, here's like a scenario. It could be anything. This forum was about the TV show Code Lyoko, which is, could have a whole other podcast about just that, but
honestly,
it's not that great a show, but it has a place, a very special place in my heart because I did all this. I spent so much time on this stupid forum, like, and made all these friends there, some of whom I'm still friends with.
Some of whom you've been to TCAP.
Yeah, it's true. So
the Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, so like basically, in these forum role plays, it's like you come up with OCs. Some of them it was like if it was based on a show, then you would pick, or a book, you would pick the characters, or it could be a mix, like it was like Harry Potter or something. You could make an OC, but also choose a character, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to do something like very fantastical, I guess, fantastical, but I guess I'm very interested in like the mundane reality that we all live in, but then also like that being juxtaposed with, I think, the very extremely fantastical characters and situations that, we come up with, that I feel like, this, from what I had listened to in this podcast, all about like people's characters and OCs and like, obviously I know Maury's really into tabletop RPGs. It's like, and all the D&D stuff, it's like you're coming up with what you're coming up with is extreme, it's totally fantastical, like totally out there, like crazy stuff, but it's like, all made by, in reality, in the world that we live in, it's like we're all just like, in our bedrooms, like at a computer or whatever, which was particularly like, I guess, an interesting thing in the year 2006, like pre-social media, like mass internet usage.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was more widespread than like earlier, like when people would do crazy shit like IRC or whatever. Like I was never quite old enough to get. It's God, they're like chat rooms, but they're like the old school chat rooms that people used. Like this is like pre-forum. This is like old. It's like after that, but before social media.
We're all old here. Well, I don't know about Quadra, but Morgan and I.
Quadra's older than I am.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I thought I was gonna get out of this one unscathed, but no, yeah, I'm ancient.
Sorry. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus like that. I think I might either me or Emery is the youngest one on the podcast, I think. Okay. Actually. But
no, we're all still young at heart here.
Yeah.
Creating OCs, being imaginative.
But like that's the point, right? Like that's it. I mean that this podcast takes place in the fucking bedroom talking about our fantastical OCs. And even when they're not like actually fantastic, like they might just be like a regular dude.
There's such a great joy to be found in making just a regular guy.
I love it. That's a great soundbite right there.
Yes, absolutely.
First time mothers, I guess. Or parents, dads get to not enjoy, like their children as well. And we cut that out.
No.
Please.
Keep that in, reverb it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. There was one time I made a terrible documentary of a trip that Morgan and I did, and Morgan was like, "You're gonna cut this out, right?" And so of course I just repeated the section.
That's how you're supposed to do it, but Emery won't do that to me.
Yeah, definitely add the reverb.
Danny loves to just. I mean, there's just like a lot of pictures of me falling asleep in college that just exist on the internet because of this guy.
Yeah, we'll share.
This fucking Danny guy. God damn it.
Yeah, we'll share all of those after the podcast.
No. Fine. Yes. Fine.
Finally, that morgue lore that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, the morgue lore.
Because you're such an
morgue lore.
What's the word? Enigma.
No, I'm not.
Really?
No, you're not. That's what makes it even funnier to see.
Yeah. Well, if you
no, I'm not.
If you ever need any morgue lore, I pretty much have an encyclopedic knowledge of morgue.
Shut the fuck up.
I can't wait to host morgue trivia night.
No.
That would be such a fun thing, though.
No.
Love how this is turning into the morgue podcast. We've done My Immortal, we've done morgue.
Yeah.
This is what happens when I invite on a longtime friend.
I know, yeah, sorry. It's hard for me to be serious.
I mean, we're,
Yeah. But yeah, actually, I did want to say, like, I feel like, yeah, it's very apt that basically my original story was, like, about, yeah, like what you guys are talking about with this or what you guys are doing with this podcast, where it was, yeah, specifically I had this idea of, like, the characters, they had, like, this, like, they lived in like a outer space kind of like space station kind of thing. And they were just like living their lives out there, and we're gonna like encounter some aliens or something. I don't know. Like, again, this didn't get very far, but yeah, that's like the deepest that I can remember, I guess.
I did like the alien designs. I think that's why I was like, I remembered it, know?
Oh yeah, actually there was the animation stuff too, where I had some like weird sci-fi world, like that also the character. It's just funny, now thinking about, like, there were several iterations of like what's the world that these characters, like, Amber, Nico, Drew, and the optional internet friend. Yeah, like literally I went through, I guess, at least three very distinct universes before settling on like what Dream Over became. So the first one was like, the forum, like the fictional forum role-playing world. The second one was like this weird sci-fi futuristic world, where like people could like, you could like download other people's memories. It was like some crazy, like totally out there shit that made no sense. And then the third version was like all of a sudden fully in the real world, like very just like, senior year of high school, whatever. And then the fourth version was like kind of an in-between, or the final version was like an in-between of like, okay, not so definitely, I wanted the fantastical element, but like still the, what do you call it? Yeah, I guess the real, the realism.
I think like someone, like I'm not like a genre person that like knows a lot about them, but like the term like magical realism comes to mind when I think of that, where like it's very like there's elements of this that can and maybe even have happened to you, to other people, and then just like obviously, the likelihood of sharing a lucid dream is pretty low, but it's also like
never zero.
That happen. Never zero. You don't know. I don't know. I don't want to completely rule it out because
yeah, we gotta keep our options open.
Then I'll be like the fucking Boo Boo the Fool later. Like, I don't know, but it's also it really like makes it so it's like nice to be able to see like how diverse your artwork can get too, just between all of that, because we do get like the slice of life, like talking to people, but it still feels like pretty dynamic when they're doing that, and then also the like action scenes of I guess, of them just like going through a forest or like falling from a plane.
Oh yeah, the way the panels follow up and are done really enhances the story. I remember loving that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just and yeah, I mean, I know we've spent a lot with like the setting, but I think that, they kind of, the characters come from the setting, come from the characters, they're kind of integral to each other, separating, But I like that the inside of the book is like, Amber is a headstrong goofball with temper.
Oh yeah.
Nico is a shy, self-conscious emo boy. I love that emo boy.
That's the most 2008 thing you could have written there.
Absolutely.
Whatever happened to the real emo boys?
They still exist.
I don't see them.
Still exist.
I don't see them out at the mall anymore. What happened?
You're right. You're so right. They all got old.
They got forced to do jobs, and that's just not good for emo boys.
That's so sad, dude.
No one should be forced to do a job.
Yeah, no, I agree that being forced to do a job takes away a lot of time that could be dedicated to being emo.
I was also going to make a joke that all the emo boys transitioned, but I don't know.
You know what? You're so right. You're onto something here.
Anyway, that's just me. That's me projecting because I was the emo boy that transitioned. Anyway.
No, I mean, me
you're
too.
so right.
Or more, I transitioned into the emo boy, I guess.
Right.
But
new gender just dropped.
Hell yeah.
Well, I can definitely, I feel like this could be a good segue to do a deep dive into gender angst.
I love to talk about gender angst.
I feel like that would be great for this podcast as well.
Yes, absolutely. All four of us hosts have gender.
I often think about that time we accidentally said Izzy has gender.
Yeah, before they realized they had gender.
That's amazing.
Sometimes you say there's only been one cis guy on the podcast, and then that makes people who've been on the podcast question themselves.
Right. Yeah, I was actually just listening to one of the episodes earlier where you guys said that exact. You were talking about this the one cis person.
Yeah, that was also combined with the podcast we did before this one, where it was Quattro, me, and Emery, where we did like a Digimon podcast.
God, that was so fun.
But we were like, wow, there's like no cis people on here. Anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I can talk about just like, yeah, so it's like, or sort of like, why the hell do I do any of this? Is kind of like definitely all coming from I guess I would say, yeah, gender angst is probably, it's actually probably my number one motivating factor for like making graphic novels.
Hell yeah.
That and hating corporate America and not wanting to be part of it. Which I am right now, but
valid.
I mean, so am I, right? Like, yeah. I hate it, and
or it's
I would like to think I'm not, but unfortunately, I think it's kind of hard to not, in some way or form, be dragged into it.
That's true. Yeah, no, even making this book, it's like, obviously, a company bought it and published it and everything, and that's all. But yeah, anyway, so gender angst. So I feel like, so the main character, Amber, it's like, basically, so I grew up, obviously socialized 100% male, like, I had mostly guy friends growing up until, high school I had more friends who were girls, but, yeah, I guess, I didn't really, it's funny because, like, actually in my high school there were a couple like trans people, and like I actually did have like even like gay teachers growing up. And when I tell this to a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people are shocked.
It's not that common. Like
back then, I feel like, especially.
Yeah, back then.
So, but even with those, like,
you went to one of them liberal schools.
Yeah, exactly. But even all that, it's like, it's not like I magically was like, oh, actually, I realized I should have been born female. It's like that just didn't happen because, like, it takes a long time to, I think, come to terms with these things. So, but I guess as early as like 2015, I could say, is like when I like started drawing the main character of Dreamover, who's Amber. And it's like, basically I just wish I was like a basic bitch growing up. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to be like, I just like really, I mean, even back then I like always hated like all masculine things, like felt like totally alienated from like the expectations, I guess, and just felt like very deeply uncomfortable with my own body and just like just all these things. And so, and as I feel like I was very envious of like just seeing my female classmates who would gender so well, right? And they seemed like so like happy, right? Even though they probably weren't, and they all had eating disorders, but like they seemed happy on the outside, right? Or just like they were comfortable being able to express themselves. I think that's something that there's argument.
Even if they weren't happy, it was like they could express like femininity in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. So like femininity is, as obviously it's a very complex concept and all this stuff, but clearly like it's very fun to do in some like there's like a lot of fun in femininity, right?
Yeah.
And in my mind, it just felt like, as a boy back at that time, it was like you're just very limited, like how you could express yourself. And it's just very rigid. I felt like, and if you deviate outside of that, you're punished severely, right?
Yeah, I've made a joke about even though like I've been transitioning, like I still shop a lot in like the female section just because they have nicer shirts. Like I know that's just kind of a silly joke, but there's like actual truth to that, and like how it's like less rigid and like outfitting, even something as basic as that,
right? Yeah, and of course it's like obviously like how do I put this? It's like there are pros and cons.
I don't want to take that away from you.
Like any, I think gender identity has pros and cons. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's fair to say. But unless I don't know. Yeah, I guess I just sort of rambling at this point. But I guess all this is to say that even like I only really came to terms with my own like trans femme identity like during like the pandemic. So like even like for 5 years, I was already like basically like I'm drawing this like female version of myself and like an idealized like childhood. That's like
that is so relatable.
It's like this is totally normal, right? Like everybody does this.
Everybody thinks this way, right?
Everybody did that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I feel like it's honestly I feel like not every trans artist, but like for some reason. So I should say in the graphic novel world, like memoir is like for some reason like super hot and it's like super trendy, and also like just everybody goes for it. Like the most well known, I'd say actually almost all the most well known graphic novels are memoirs. Like Fun Home, Mouse, and Persepolis are all memoirs.
Oh yeah,
and. Everybody just loves memoirs. And so, it's just sort of funny how I think a lot of, like, what I did is, like, not unique necessarily. And, like, a lot of trans artists will, and writers and everything, it's just, like, the art, yeah, it's like, I guess, yeah, making these things, making the art or writing is like a way to like, you know, process what's happened in your life, and to, for me, you know, like felt like to escape my own life as well. Like there's like escapism is a huge theme of the book for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's, even if you weren't like, I'm a trans creator making this book, someone could just pick up this book and be like, oh wow, characters that feel like they're out of place, you know, that's very like relatable as like a trans person, but as anyone, but I feel like it especially hits home for us. And the fact that you're like, yeah, this was kind of a sort of maybe a female version of me a little bit.
Yeah.
At least to some degree, even though you're like,
right.
you know, it's not memoir.
Yeah.
It's not full on memoir.
Exactly. Yeah, like what I've said in the past is that it's more like Amber's more like, that's who I wish I could have been, right? Like somebody who was like very comfortable with expressing herself, you know, just totally like sort of happy-go-lucky, but you know, I mean, she does have like the like negative sides of her are, I would say, like definitely, like I have those, like in terms of like having a temper or like, you know, her like neediness or like her like sort of selfishness. But yeah, when I was like that age, I was more like Nico. Like I was totally like, you know, super reserved, you know, super emo, like just barely said a word, you know, kind of like very shy. So
yeah, definitely. Just like wearing a hoodie and
yeah. Just like, please don't look at me. Please don't perceive that I exist.
Oh, yeah, relatable.
And I just feel like it's really, you know, it's like, in an ideal world, I think that we should all be able to not feel that
way. Right.
Like, we shouldn't feel so deeply uncomfortable, like, going out in public. Or, like, you know, feel at risk of discrimination based on how we want to behave.
Yeah.
Or like what we want to look like or whatever.
Then it gets so complicated because you're like, well, I'm also separating from these people who do care about me. LOL.
You mean in the
book? But yeah, I mean in real life, but also in both, in all of the above.
Yeah. I guess like in the book, it was sort of like.
It's more direct in the book, I guess. Like, yes, this.
Yeah, like in the book, it's like, you know, the origin point of the characters is definitely like, you know, or of Amber. You know, I talked about like the origin point would be like my, like, you know, gender angst, and then, you know, the other characters' origin points could also be like just, you know, reminiscent of people I grew up with and stuff. But then, of course, all that is not enough to like make a book. Like, there needs to be a plot. There needs to be a conflict. So that's where, I guess, yeah, this idea of like, that's how I came up with, you know, the two characters are gonna, you know, start dating and then, you know, sort of become really obsessed with each other and neglect their friends. And of course, you know, I'm trying to make like a YA middle grade-ish story. You know, I was not trying to make something like adult, so there needed to be like a reasonable plot, you know, that would be like suitable for, you know, kids that age to read.
Yeah.
But not one that's just totally like, because I feel like a lot of, you know, YA middle grade, like it's, you know, obviously super like tropey, blah blah blah. You know, it's like, I don't know where I was going with this, but just
no, you're fine. It's true that like a lot of it feels a little bit more like surface level, like, oh, the kids maybe won't understand these things, we should just do tropes about it instead.
Yeah. And see a lot of things literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's like you can, you can trust kids to understand that, a little bit of metaphor at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just think I guess what I'm sort of trying to get at also is that, like, there are books, there are very obvious, there are books out there, or there are graphic memoirs out there that are, it's very meant to be very clear that, like, this is a graphic memoir about, like, growing up queer or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in my book, I felt like I didn't really want to center, obviously I was going to say I didn't want to center myself too much, but I feel like that's, like, not possible because, like, all artists are totally, like, self-absorbed. And it is all about my life, but
you say that like it's a bad thing, like, and I can see why it could, if you're calling yourself self-absorbed, it's like, okay, that's not, but you couldn't write it as well if it wasn't about you, right. It wouldn't come out right.
Yeah, it wouldn't come out like a genuine, honest. Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah,
and like
if it's not,
even though if you're just reading the surface of this book and you're like, this is a boy and a girl who are in a relationship, it's very like the straight or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're just reading it like that, like, obviously there's more to it. Like, even if you just go a little bit deeper, even if you're not reading queerness into it, it's
for sure. Yeah.
Easy to read other shit into it.
Well, Catherine Vargas said they're queer, so.
I am also, well, see, the thing is that all of your faves are queer when I'm reading stuff. But, True. But they also, like, read queer to me as someone who is, one, queer, and knows who you are.
Well, good.
So. But
yeah, no, you're totally right, though, like, at the surface level, and yeah, like, it's just, and honestly, I feel like I did that on purpose. Like, I was, I'm not trying to, like, it's definitely, I would be surprised if people read this and were like, oh wow, that was totally about, like, gender dysphoria. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, it doesn't really, if you're not yourself, like, it doesn't scan. And in fact, like, some of the side characters are, like, gay.
That's true. Yeah, they're all gay.
Not.
So. Forgot. Yeah.
But, or
that is true. Yeah, I mean that also speaks to the subtext.
It also probably speaks a little bit to your own situation. Like, maybe not in middle and high school, but just in general. You're like, why am I surrounded by all these queer people? I don't know.
Yes.
LOL.
Yes. But yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's just sort of interesting, like, trying to make, like, you're trying to do something that's, like, I was trying to balance, I guess, like, I wanting to do something that's obviously, like, I'm processing my own experiences here, but also I'm, trying to make, a commercial product at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
It's a fucking push and pull of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you want to, like, I went to this panel once, at this Toronto Comics Arts Festival. And there's this legendary comics fair. It's like this thing called Shortbox Comics Fair. And I saw a panel with the person who, like, curates that, and she was saying, like, the three things, the three core things in any story or any, like, comic or anything really. I mean, any piece of media, I guess, is like, one, did this need to be made? Two, or this is what she's looking for, I guess. Or this is what she thinks is successful. One, did this thing need to be made? Two, will it resonate with people? And three, will it actually sell? So it's sort of like,
man,
like, I really had to think about, like in the first in some of the earlier iterations that I was talking about earlier, it was like still, I mean, all of this, I felt like, yes, it needed to be made because I, had all this severe angst, gender angst, and, just like needed to get it out, right? Like I needed, I needed to, will it resonate with people? That's where I was sort of like, I'm not sure. Like only,
I don't know.
It would resonate with only in a very niche ways. Like some of those earlier iterations, I think would, like nobody, like unless you did forum role playing, you wouldn't give a shit, right?
There's more and more of us.
Who would have done forum role playing back in the day?
Exactly. Yeah. So
there's many of us.
I mean, and I think
bringing back some regrets of my past times. It's fine. It's fine.
No regrets.
I've grown as a person. No, I have some regrets. Not gonna lie.
And I'd love to hear about them.
We've got an episode about it.
Oh, great!
Do we? I don't even remember.
The Werewolves channel. That's.
Oh, you're talking about that's Ghost Gaze. That's not this podcast.
True. Oh, that wasn't.
That's
Ghost
a different
Gaze,
feed.
But that was in the old forum channels that happened.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll have to investigate.
I can. Yeah, I can.
Give me the download.
That episode. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like, definitely struggling a bit there with like, will this, will people resonate with this or whatever? And then definitely, will this sell? No.
You're like, I don't know. I don't care.
The answer is I feel like early on in the process, you shouldn't be thinking about, will this sell? You really, I think that's unfortunately kind of like I feel like you don't want to have too much like rational whatever like weighing you down as you're like trying to create something.
Yeah.
And I think that like ruins a lot of things I think are ruined obviously by their commercial context.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wait, this has to sell, so we have to compromise on everything.
I think you should have a solid thing before you think, will this sell? Because otherwise you've just made a commercial product that nobody cares about.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like, did this need to be made? Then the answer is no. And so then I think you're dead.
Yeah.
And that's why I think most things suck, is because they didn't need to be made. But the things that are good, like, they needed to be made or else the author would have killed himself, basically. You know what I mean? Or like, that's a little harsh to say, but like, I think
some of it's true.
For
a lot of them, that's true.
A lot of stuff that I like, that's how I feel.
not like, even if it's not like physically true, it's like mentally true, like they would have been like, well, I'm not going to be myself, and that sucks, and I'm more or less dying, even if I'm not physically dying. But, I just love to be able to just flip through this, like it's being picked up on my mic because I'm flipping through the book right now as I'm talking to you. No pressure. I don't know. It just was like, it's one of those things. I gotta fiddle with my hands a little bit, but
it's so understandable. I am looking at the time a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though this is super interesting, I do at some point need to go to sleep.
It's late for Quattro.
Because I live in the worst time zone.
Yeah, where are you?
In Europe.
Where in Europe?
Am I being asked to dox myself at this point?
No, I'm just curious.
I'm from Belgium.
Talk about it.
I
was like,
no, I don't mind. People know I'm from Belgium.
I thought you talked about it.
Yeah, people know my hometown at this point.
Oh no!
And I was just trying to like place your accent, like I was like not succeeding. I would not.
My accent is a mess. I ruined it because I hated my English teacher, and then I met a bunch of Irish people, and then I met a bunch of Scottish people, nice. And then at some point it just became whatever this is.
You're like, it's Belgian-ish, maybe.
It's somewhat Belgian. I don't think I make some of my words harsh enough to sound Dutch anymore. But also, I don't know how to do it. I just sound like this.
Yeah. I guess, is there any, like, things you want to make sure you get out there before we wrap up as far as Dream Over or characters? I guess we didn't get to, talking about the bad reviews after all. But...
Oh yeah, we didn't get to do the. Yeah, it's just more that we read the 1-star reviews because they're funny.
Yeah. But we got too invested in what you were talking about with the book, and I think that's probably better anyway.
A year from now, we can do that. How about that?
We'll reconvene in a year, and then we'll have more. We'll have more just statistically. This is because there'll be more people who read it, so there's going to be more 1-stars. But
damn.
Also more 5-star.
Statistically that is inevitable.
I'm not being an asshole on purpose.
Some people will
There's
pick
gonna
up
be more
on 5 subtext and 1-star it on that.
There's gonna be more 5-star. Sure. Yeah, I know. Some people are gonna 1-star it because they're like, oh, this is too gay.
Yeah.
They're gonna look at the side characters and be like, this is too gay.
They're gonna clock it, not realize they clock it because it's reflecting themselves and 1-star it. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like, the book's not for everybody, for sure.
But I think,
I am no longer on any of those review sites because it was draining too much energy. But know that I am mentally giving it a 5-star.
Thank you. Dude, I freaking get it. I'd never looked at Goodreads before. And it's like, I'm like, this is way too serious.
It's really serious.
People take that insanely serious.
It's also really funny to see reviews on classics because they're just okay, buddy, we know you were forced to read this in high school and you hated it. Fine, you don't have to, talk about it here.
I once deleted a review of mine because someone replied to it and said, you know what, I really agree with this and I will not be finishing this book. And I was like, make your own opinion. And then I deleted it.
LOL. That's pretty good. But hey, if you want, you should pick up this book to leave a review on Goodreads. Dream Over.
Yeah, and if you're in Europe, know that my bookstore just had it in stock, so your bookstore might just have it in stock as well.
Wow, wait, that's awesome.
That's so cool,
Europe.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually don't. Yeah. I have some family in Canada, and they got it. I have a friend in Australia who did not get it for some reason, which I need to figure out what happened. But I don't know anybody in Europe. So it's great to hear
now you do.
It's out there. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
It was weird, too. I could not order it on any of my regular sites, but all the actual bookstore had it.
Wow.
That's funny. But yeah,
I'd love to know what bookstore that was.
Yeah, we could talk about that really off air.
That's crazy. They just had it.
It was in stock with their English publisher that they buy from.
I see. Okay. Sure.
Maybe they buy from Top Shelf because that's what it's from. Which is the
owner of that bookstore is very much all about small artists and giving people a spotlight, so it's not surprising that I could get it through them.
That's great.
That man has gotten me on stage with my poetry. He's all about supporting artists.
No. That's awesome.
I love that. Yeah, you can order Dream Over.
Do it.
There's all over the place online. You can, it's even on the dreaded website, It's just being honest with you. You can just...
But you can order it through a bookstore, actually. That works great. And then you get to talk to cool bookstore owners.
Yeah. You should.
Yeah, no, I super appreciate people who did that, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
It's, way better.
Mm-hmm. I was just saying that because I think my mom might buy a copy and she's probably going to use...
Beep. And we cut that. We don't want that word on our podcast.
Yeah, we can cut that. I'm sorry. You could just say my mom bought book from big store.
I'm sorry. I'm getting tired and making nonsense at this point.
Yeah.
Dani, would you like to do, plug social medias, I guess. That's what we usually do at the end.
Sure.
But only if you want to. I know it's kind of like...
I love social media. I love it. I love it so much that, I will happily, begrudgingly leave my social media.
Okay,
which is
go
just,
for it.
It's just memory fuel. Just one word,
it's just memory fuel.
Although I do have a TikTok, which still exists.
Oh my god.
Memory.fuel.
I know Memory Fuel, the Instagram has like the trailer for this book on it.
I made an animated trailer.
Cool.
That I would love for people to watch because I put
cool.
an insane amount of work into it, and it has 10 views on YouTube. So.
Oh no, I didn't know that. I'll watch it on YouTube. I watched it on Instagram like a couple times.
Sorry, it has 8 views on YouTube. I was wrong.
Bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find. Time to do the host plugs, because
please do.
You can find me at Haunting the Morgue in most places. I'm probably the most active on like Tumblr, but I do have an Instagram. I just never fucking use it. That's kind of it, because my other podcast is on hiatus.
Yes. You can find me also on Tumblr, matrimcountant.tumblr.com, but I've made a Blue Sky.
Me too.
And then one day after having a Blue Sky, I bought oikawa.be so that I could be at oikawa.be on Blue Sky.
Oh my God.
If anyone was wondering from what country I'm from, it's Belgium.
It's BE. It's Belgium.
It's BE, and those were really cheap. I could buy anything. Nobody buys a .be.
Also, they wouldn't buy like a haiku character either, specifically.
Yeah.
Wait, what's your Blue Sky? I want to follow you.
Oikawa.be.
How do you spell it? Sorry.
O-I. Oh, that's so difficult.
It is hard. It's like O-W. There's like a W in it, right?
O-I-K-A-W-A. I'm a teacher, and this was so hard for me. And then .be. That spells itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Great.
I'll have 16 followers.
Let's go.
I'm becoming so popular.
I have 26.
Oh, you're winning, yeah.
I don't know how many I have on Blue
I think we
Sky.
should all go back to PHP forums. That's how I feel.
That's so true.
Everybody
Find
just
me on
delete
a forum.
all social media and see what happens.
Well, some of our hosts are kind of doing that, so they're stronger than I.
They're stronger than us.
But you can find the podcast at Check Out This Guy on Tumblr, on Blue Sky, on... That's mostly it, because I think technically there's a Twitter, but I don't fucking use it.
I deleted mine. Well,
yeah. But Check Out This Guy is also on noisepace.xyz, home of podcasts that we love. And that's it, I think. We're going long today. We're talking, making Quacha sleepy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Me, let's do a half an hour earlier so I can go to sleep earlier. Also me, let's podcast until 11 anyway. No, this was great. We get to talk about Dream Over so that Quattro has a dream.
Yes, I hope you have a nice lucid dream tonight.
A nice lucid dream, yes.
Which I do occasionally have lucid dreams. I should have said that. But they only last, max, 10 seconds.
Damn.
Because, as soon as I realize that it's happening, my brain just, freaks out and I wake up. It's really weird. It's hard to describe.
That is weird.
That is weird. I should say goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming on, Dani.
Yes.